going on, guys? Snake Eyes here, playing some more Dark Souls 2, and in this video I'm going to show you how to maximize your infusion damage. Now, I made a guide a while back showing you the details and everything that's pretty much specific about the weapon infusions and all that. And since then, I've actually been really surprised at the amount of messages that I've been getting pretty much every day, asking what's the best route to go with and all that stuff. So I figured I might as well make this video showing you one quick and easy way to pretty much guarantee that you get max damage with any infusion on any weapon. And it's actually really simple. I looked around on YouTube and I actually didn't find any video like this, so I figured I might as well do it. And also to kind of show you guys a little bit more, I'm doing it with different weapons. Some weapons that you see right here would be pretty much obvious as far as the infusion route, but you'd actually be surprised that even though it's obvious and that's something that people would more than likely go with, it doesn't mean it's the best. So I'm also doing this live, so if I screw up, then oh well, I'm not gonna be able to edit it out. But either way it goes, right now I got the Sun Sword, which is just pretty much a standard sword, some pretty decent scaling on it. I have the Black Dragon Warpick with no scaling, so people would automatically assume raw is the best route to go with. And then I also have the Black Knight Greatsword, something that has side damage as far as like having physical damage but built-in fire damage. And most people would want to buff the fire damage to kind of get more out of that, but even that isn't the best route to go with. So in order for you to do this, you have to have the weapon that you want to infuse equipped. If you don't have it equipped, then you have to equip it so that way it works. But pretty much all you're going to want to do is go up to Macduff, go to the infusion menu and all that. Hit triangle as soon as you get in, and that's going to show you your player stats, and it's also going to show you your attack ratings for every weapon that you have equipped. And then you just want to go to the weapon that you want to infuse and go ahead and start looking at the different infusions that you want to get. So right here I'm going to start off with the Sun Sword, and with this weapon it's actually best for me to not do any infusion whatsoever, to just leave it as leave it as it is. For some reason I couldn't speak. Leave it as it is and just not do anything with it. As you can see right there, I have 415 attack rating, and any infusion that I want to go with would actually lower my overall attack rating, mainly because with the stats that I have, the AA in strength and dexterity scaling is actually better for me than to pretty much go with an infusion. Now a lot of people say that going with an infusion no matter what is guaranteed more damage. That's pretty much not true. It's proof right here that if the weapon is good enough with the scaling, it's pretty much best to just leave it alone. So that's something to think about. Obviously it would be best to go with an infusion if your stats don't take full advantage of the scaling, but this is why I'm showing you this, because every build is different, every character on every level is pretty much different. So just because it's best for me to not go with an infusion doesn't mean it's not best for you. So that's kind of why I'm showing you this. Right here is the Black Knight Greatsword, and most people would pretty much want to either go with raw since it has kind of low scaling, or they would want to go with fire. So doing the same thing over again. As you can see, if I go with fire, I actually lose 1 point in my attack rating. Now that's kind of something that wouldn't really make too much sense, since if you go with fire you actually lose about 8 points in your physical damage and you get 22 points in your fire damage. So that's kind of something that would throw people off, but like I said, if you just push triangle and you go back, it actually shows that your attack rating would drop. So that's kind of something to think about. Also, one thing I'll show you right now kind of at the end, but real quick I'm gonna go over the last one, which is the Black Dragon Warpick. This weapon has no scaling, so automatically people would be like raw, you know, just infuse it with raw because you're gonna get higher base damage and you're not gonna lose anything with the scaling that it takes away. But going with raw is actually pretty much one of the worst things that I could do. Even though I do get an increase in attack rating, if I were to go with magic, fire, lightning, or dark, that would actually be the best route for me. So something as obvious as a weapon with no scaling and raw being kind of the one thing that's on your mind isn't necessarily the one that you would want to go with. So you would actually want to go ahead and look in this menu and see what the best option would be. like I said, it would be better for me to go with an element than to just boost physical defense. Now that kind of segues into with these elements. It's all pretty much based on your personal experience with PvP. Fire has pretty much proven itself to be my best infusion, but I don't go with fire for the simple fact that when I PvP, more than likely I'm in the Iron Keep, and being in the Iron Keep, you run into people with a lot of armor that's pretty much resistant to fire. So that's kind of something that I don't go with, because even though it is the best one for me, my overall damage would still be less than if I went with the second best or even the third best, for the simple fact that they're going to be resisting a lot of the fire damage that I would be doing. So like I said, that's still something to think about. One other thing that you can kind of do to I guess increase your damage, I guess all the way to the max, is pretty much go to the Ring of Knowledge or Ring of Prayer. These rings right here increase your intelligence and faith, which pretty much will increase your attack rating. So, you know, just real quick, or actually I'm going to show without it. Going back to the Black Knight Greatsword, if you check it right here, fire takes away 1 point in my attack rating, so kind of keep that in mind. What I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to put on 2 rings, and then I'm going to put on the King's Crown, and I think that's going to give me I think about 5 or 6 points on my attack rating, but I'm not too sure. But that's kind of something that you can kind of do to pretty much, I guess, maximize the damage that you can do. I personally don't really like going with it. See right there, it only increases my attack rating by 3 points. I don't go with it because, you know, using 2 ring slots and a headpiece for the armor really isn't worth the attack rating that you would get. So that's just my personal experience, and that's just kind of something that I really don't go with. But if you really want to maximize your damage, you can go with that. And other than that, that's pretty much it. There's not really much else to it. Some weapons are a little bit more unique. Some weapons can kind of fool you. I guess I'll show you that real quick, but if you don't want to check it out, well then thanks for watching. But for those who kind of want to see real quick, I'm going to go ahead and show you with the Moonlight Greatsword. Now the Moonlight Greatsword is actually something that people would either infuse with raw or go with I guess whatever they think would be best. But I'm going to show you proof in the tiers of scaling. So right here we have the Moonlight Greatsword. I'm going to go ahead and go into the thing right here. First off, I'm going to show you what you would see normally. You would look at magic and you would see that you're going to get an S scaling, but you're also going to lose 31 points in your overall magic damage. So that's kind of something that is, you know, you really wouldn't know exactly if that's going to be better or worse. I know if I went and looked at it just as it was, I really wouldn't be too sure. Raw is kind of something that I see a lot of people going with, but not so much lately. And there's pretty much other infusions around here as well that, like I said, people really wouldn't be too sure on which one to go with. If you do the same thing that you've done for everything else, you would actually see that you get an S scaling, and it actually does improve your attack rating. Even though you do lose 31 points in the overall magic damage, the S scaling that you get now actually makes up for it. Raw doesn't make up for it. You actually lose a couple points in the attack rating. But one thing that you need to kind of watch out for is that even though it is an S, this is a top tier S, which means you're going to get more of a scaling bonus than you would if you went with fire, lightning, or dark. Now as you can see right here, you still get the S scaling, but what people would see is that I'm getting an S scaling and I'm also getting a B scaling. So technically that would be better, because now I still get to keep my S, but I'm also getting a B. That's not the case. This is actually a low tier S, and I'm assuming a low tier B. And the reason I'm saying that is because even though you get an S and a B combined, it still isn't better than this one standalone S. So that kind of shows you that there are tiers to the scaling levels. A lot of people are saying that the scaling is broken, that they're lies and all that. It's not necessarily that. It's pretty much the tier that the weapon is, you know, I guess what the scaling is at. So that's kind of something that you really do have to pay attention with. But if you do what I showed you right here, it's actually really easy, really simple. You really don't have to look too much into it. You know, you can just scan it real quick and see 287 is my highest one. It's pretty much what I'm going to go with, and you can pretty much infuse and pretty much maximize every weapon damage and infusion from here on out. So that's kind of something that I thought was kind of cool. I didn't see a lot of videos on it, and pretty much I actually didn't see any videos on it. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up. One thing that I'm going to show real quick, I know I keep saying that, but there's just really a lot of ways to maximize your damage. One thing that I'm going to show really quick is the different types of things you can do with your weapon outside of infusing to also get more damage. Now, with a raw weapon and maybe even a mundane, I'm not too sure, you can use a resin and you can use a enchantment to buff your damage. You can't use both of them at the same time. Pretty much I'm going to use a resin right now, and if I went ahead and cast dark magic, it's going to cancel out the resin that I just did. So that's kind of something that you kind of have to pay attention to. You can't stack them on top of each other, but one thing that you can't do is you can't use a resin with an infused weapon that has an element attached to it, but you can buff it with something outside of it. So as you can see, I got a dark Drake Keeper sword. I can use dark weapon on it, and I can also use sunlight blade. So that's kind of something that you might want to fool around with and see if you can get, I guess, decent damage on it, because not only would you be doing dark damage, but then you'd also be doing lightning damage, and pretty much, like I said, that's something you really have to fool around with. So those are a couple things that you can do. If you use the same weapon enchantment as the weapon that's infused, if that makes sense, pretty much if you're using dark weapon on a dark infused weapon, then you're going to get a little bonus on top of that. You're going to get 50 standard points to added dark damage, but then you're going to get a 30% scaling on top of everything that's combined. So now that's getting into a lot of mathematical stuff that I'm not really familiar with. The common thing that I do is I infuse a weapon with a certain infusion, and then I go ahead and go with the same weapon buff type. So if it's a flame weapon, then I get flame weapon. If it's dark weapon, and so on and so forth. That's just kind of the thing that I do, but like I said, it'll be different for everybody. I figured I'd give you this kind of thing right here, so that way you can kind of start getting a level ground and kind of base your I guess your tactics or whatever as far as infusion goes. But I've been rambling on long enough. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it here. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. The part 2 trailer of my Bloodborne trailer analysis is gonna come out pretty soon. I actually had to do a little bit more work to it, so that's gonna come out within a day or so. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, take care.